At a wildcat sanctuary in Minnesota, a rescued bobcat named Tractor had given up on food. He stopped eating, stopped playing, and curled into the back of his enclosure as if he'd quietly decided he was done with this world, leaving his caretakers feeling helpless. The once fierce bobcat now lay motionless, refusing food, his spirit seemingly extinguished. As caretakers debated invasive interventions, hope dwindled with each untouched meal. Then, in despair, Elias tried one last unconventional trick: a cucumber. He didn't expect a miracle. But for the first time in days, the bobcat stood, his eyes practically sparkling like a kid in a candy store. He devoured the cucumbers with such enthusiasm that it became obvious he preferred them over chicken. Stick around to see how a grocery store leftover saved a predator's life. Before we start, hit the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. The morning air in Sandstone, Minnesota, possessed that particular biting quality found only in the nebulous weeks between a harsh winter and a reluctant spring. It was a crisp, lung-freezing chill that smelled of pine needles, thawing mud, and the faint metallic tang of the chain-link fences that crisscrossed the sprawling acreage of the Wildcat Sanctuary. For Elias Thorne, the sanctuary's most senior caretaker, the cold was just another part of the uniform, layered right over his thermal undershirt and under his heavy canvas jacket. At 72, Elias moved with the measured, deliberate pace of a man who respected his joints but refused to be ruled by them. He pushed a heavy cart laden with stainless steel trays, the wheels crunching rhythmically over the gravel path. The cart smelled of raw chicken. To the average person, it might have been nauseating at 6 a.m., but to Elias, it smelled like duty. It smelled like survival. However, today, the heavy feeling in Elias's chest had nothing to do with the temperature or the labor. It was about Tractor. Tractor was a bobcat of significant size and even more significant attitude. He was a rescue, like all of them here, saved from the exotic pet trade, or a roadside zoo, or a well-meaning but misguided private owner who thought a 25-pound wildcat was basically a golden retriever with tufted ears. Tractor had arrived at the sanctuary 3 weeks ago with a reputation for being a handful. But recently, he had become something far more worrying: a ghost. He wasn't eating. "Come on, old man," Elias muttered to himself, his breath pluming in white clouds. "Don't let him break your streak." Elias had a reputation too. He was the cat whisperer of the North Woods. He could get a nervous cougar to take meds in a meatball and a grumpy tiger to shift enclosures with a simple hand signal. But Tractor was proving to be an enigma wrapped in tawny fur. The bobcat had been retreating further into the back of his enclosure, his golden eyes dull, his ribs beginning to show through his coat. In the world of wildlife rehabilitation, failure to thrive was a terrifying phrase. It was a silent slide toward the end. Elias reached Tractor's enclosure, a spacious habitat filled with climbing platforms, heated rocky dens, and tall, swaying grasses. He unlocked the safety vestibule, stepped in, and peered through the secondary mesh. "Morning, T-Bone," Elias called out softly. His voice was gravelly, warm, and low, a non-threatening rumble. "I got the good stuff today. Thigh meat bone in. You like the crunch, right?" Nothing. Just the rustle of dry oak leaves in the wind. Elias squinted. Deep in the shadow of a hollowed-out log, he saw the silhouette. Tractor was flattened against the wood, chin on his paws, staring at nothing. The posture was all wrong. A healthy bobcat is a coil of potential energy, ready to spring. Tractor looked like a deflated balloon. Elias slid the food tray through the feeding chute. The raw chicken glistened, appetizingly red and fresh. "Eat," Elias whispered, a desperate prayer disguised as a command. "Just a bite." Tractor didn't move. He didn't even twitch an ear. The rejection stung Elias more than he cared to admit. He finished his rounds in a fog, feeding the other residents, the boisterous tigers, the chuffing cougars. But his mind stayed back at that hollow log. By the time he returned to the keeper's kitchen, the atmosphere among the staff was somber. "Still nothing?" asked Sarah, the sanctuary's lead veterinarian, looking up from a clipboard. She looked tired. Elias shook his head, pouring himself a cup of coffee that was more sludge than liquid. "Looked right through me. It's like he's decided he's done, Sarah. I've seen it before. They just check out." The break room fell silent. The team knew the stakes. If Tractor didn't eat soon, they'd have to tranquilize him for a feeding tube, and the stress of that could finish him off. It was a heart-wrenching catch-22. Here was a creature built for survival, an apex predator designed by millions of years of evolution to hunt and thrive, withering away because his spirit was broken. "I brought in a salad for lunch," Sarah said, trying to break the tension. She pushed a plastic container across the table. "I grew way too many cucumbers in the greenhouse. Anyone want one? They're crisp." Elias stared at the green vegetable. He wasn't hungry, but he nodded. "I'll take one. Maybe the crunch will keep me awake." He grabbed a whole cucumber, wrapped it in a napkin, and headed back out. He told himself he was going to check the perimeter fence, but his boots, possessing a mind of their own, walked him back to Tractor. The sun was higher now, casting dappled light through the trees. The chicken on Tractor's tray remained untouched, flies beginning to take an interest Tractor had moved, but only slightly. He was now lying in a patch of sunlight, but his eyes were closed. Elias leaned against the mesh, peeling the napkin off his cucumber. He took a bite. Crunch. The sound was loud in the quiet woods. Suddenly, inside the enclosure, an ear swiveled. Elias stopped chewing. He watched. Tractor's left ear had rotated 180 degrees, radar locking onto the sound. Elias took another bite. Crunch. Tractor's eyes snapped open. The golden irises, previously dull and glazed, constricted in the bright light. The bobcat lifted his head. He wasn't looking at the chicken. He was looking at Elias. Specifically, at Elias's hand. "What?" Elias whispered. "You want a salad? You're a hyper-carnivore, buddy. You eat rabbits, not roughage." Tractor stood up. It was the first time Elias had seen him stand fully upright in 3 days. The cat stretched, a long, fluid motion that rippled down his spine and padded silently toward the mesh. He let out a chuff, a short, sharp exhalation of breath. Elias looked at the chicken, then at the cucumber. It defied every biological law he knew. Bobcats possess a digestive tract designed exclusively for protein. They don't have the enzymes for cellulose. A cucumber to a bobcat should be as interesting as a rock. But the intensity of Tractor's stare was undeniable. "You're kidding me," Elias muttered. Checking to make sure Sarah wasn't watching, feeding unauthorized items was a strict violation of protocol. Elias broke off a chunk of the cucumber. He knelt down. "Okay, weirdo, you want to sniff it? Go ahead. Realize it's not meat." He tossed the green chunk through the mesh. It landed with a soft thud on the grass, about 3 feet from Tractor's nose. Tractor didn't just sniff it, he pounced. The bobcat launched himself into the air, a blur of tawny fur and spots, and landed with both front paws bracketing the cucumber slice. He froze, tail twitching, waiting for the vegetable to make a run for it. When the cucumber failed to flee, Tractor leaned in. Sniff, 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 and then crunch. Elias's jaw dropped. He actually felt it unhinge slightly. Tractor devoured the piece, eyes squeezed shut in what looked suspiciously like ecstasy. Then, the bobcat looked up at Elias and let out a demanding roar. "Well, I'll be damned." Elias breathed. He threw the rest of the cucumber. Tractor caught it mid-air. But he didn't eat it immediately. Instead, the 30-pound predator fell onto his back. He clutched the long green vegetable between his front paws and began to rabbit kick it with his hind legs, purring so loudly Elias could hear it through the fence. He rubbed his cheeks against it. He tossed it up, batted it down, and rolled over it like a kitten with a catnip mouse. The gloom that had settled over Elias's heart evaporated, replaced by a bubble of pure, confused laughter. "Sarah!" he yelled, forgetting his radio. "Sarah, get the camera. You are not going to believe this." By the following morning, the Great Hunger Strike was officially over, replaced by something the staff dubbed the salad bar incident. It turned out that Tractor would eat his chicken, but only after he had been paid a toll of fresh produce. The physiological explanation was debated endlessly in the break room. Was it the water content? The texture? The cooling sensation on his gums? Or was it simply that in a life of captivity, where every meal is served dead and prepared, the cucumber offered something novel, a toy that crunched, rolled, and tasted different? But the hilarity didn't stop with Tractor. Elias, feeling mischievous and scientifically curious, decided to expand the sample size. 2 days later, a delivery truck from the local grocer arrived. They had donated 3 crates of ugly produce, cucumbers that were too curved or bumpy for the supermarket shelves. "All right," Elias announced to the team during the morning briefing. "Operation Green Gold is a go. Let's see who else is a closet vegetarian." They started with Athena. Athena was a female bobcat who carried herself with the regal air of a dowager countess. She was fastidious, keeping her coat groomed to perfection, and usually viewed toys with skepticism. Elias tossed a whole cucumber into her enclosure. Athena approached it with caution. She stalked it low to the ground, belly fur brushing the grass. She circled the intruder. She extended one paw and tapped it. The cucumber rolled. Athena leaped 3 feet straight into the air, hissing. "She hates it," Sarah whispered from the observation deck. "Wait," Elias said. Athena landed. She glared at the vegetable. Then she approached it again, this time with vengeance. She bit into the middle of it, seemingly offended by its existence. But as the crunch registered, her eyes went wide. She didn't eat it. She murdered it. She shredded the skin, batting the pieces around, chasing the rolling ends, pouncing on the seeds. The dignified queen was gone, replaced by a chaotic whirlwind of fur and vegetable shrapnel. Next was Sebastian. Sebastian was an African serval, a tall, lanky cat with ears like radar dishes and legs that went on forever. Servals are the elite hunters of the tall grass. Sebastian usually sat on his high platform, looking down on the humans with mild judgment. When the cucumber landed in his space, Sebastian didn't pounce. He descended his ramp with fluid grace. He sniffed the offering. He looked at Elias, then back at the cucumber. Delicately, Sebastian picked up the cucumber by one end in his mouth, like a cigar. He carried it up to his highest platform, dropped it, and watched it fall. As it hit the ground, he dove after it, caught it on the bounce, and began to rub his entire face all over it. The sensory overload was apparent. He drooled, he rubbed, he made a low, guttural sound of possession. "It's a hit," Elias declared, wiping tears of laughter from his eyes. "It's a sanctuary-wide hit." The phenomenon escalated. The staff realized that the cucumbers were the ultimate enrichment tool. They floated in water tubs for the tigers, who were less interested in eating them and more interested in squishing them. They were hidden in brush piles for the cougars. But the bobcats, Tractor specifically, remained the undisputed champions of the sport. It was a Tuesday afternoon when the Bobcat Cucumber Olympics truly began. The staff had arranged a playdate. Since Tractor, Athena, Bella, and Luna had lived together before and were compatible, they were released into the main shared habitat, a massive enclosure filled with trees, streams, and rocky outcrops. Elias and the team had prepared the arena. They had hidden 20 cucumbers throughout the habitat. Some were hanging from low branches on bungee cords. Some were floating in the pond. Some were just piled in the center like a dragon's hoard. "Release the hounds," Elias chuckled, opening the shift doors. The 4 bobcats trotted out. Usually there would be a period of sniffing, marking territory, and establishing hierarchy. Not today. Today, Tractor smelled the green. He made a beeline for the center pile. But Bella, a smaller but scrappier female, cut him off. She slid into the pile like a baseball player stealing home base, scattering cucumbers everywhere. Chaos ensued. It was a scene of pure, unadulterated joy. To the elderly folks watching the live feed from their computers at home, the sanctuary's loyal donor base, it was better than any sitcom. Tractor managed to secure a particularly large cucumber. He gripped it in his jaws and began to strut. He did the victory prance, a high-stepping gait that showed off his prize. But his hubris was his undoing. Luna, lurking in the tall grass, ambushed him. She didn't attack him. She attacked the cucumber. They engaged in a tug-of-war that defied physics. 2 predators, capable of taking down deer, were growling ferociously over a salad ingredient. Tractor pulled left. Luna pulled right. Snap. The cucumber broke in half. The momentum sent them both tumbling backward, somersaulting over their own tails. They sat up, looked at their respective halves, and seemingly shrugged fair enough. They sat 5 feet apart, crunching in unison. Meanwhile, in the pond, Athena was battling a floating cucumber. Every time she pawed at it, it bobbed away. She was getting increasingly frustrated, splashing water everywhere, her dignity thoroughly compromised. Finally, she abandoned grace, jumped into the shallow end with a giant splash, and pinned the vegetable against the mud. She emerged dripping wet, triumphant, the green trophy clamped in her jaws. Elias stood by the fence, his fingers hooked through the wire, watching. He hadn't felt this light in years. The heavy cloak of responsibility, the constant worry about funding, the grief of losing animals to old age. It all lifted in the face of this absurdity. He watched Tractor, the cat who had been ready to give up on life just weeks ago. Tractor was currently on his back, juggling a cucumber end with his hind feet, eyes bright, belly exposed, completely vulnerable and completely happy. "He came back to us," Sarah said softly, standing beside Elias. "Yeah," Elias replied, his voice thick. "He just needed a reason. Guess chicken wasn't enough. He needed to play." "Don't we all?" Sarah mused. As the seasons turned, the cucumber time became a ritual. It wasn't just about the cats anymore. It became a bridge between the animals and the humans who loved them. The elderly residents of the nearby nursing home, who often felt isolated and forgotten much like the rescue animals, started a cucumber club. They grew vegetables in their raised garden beds specifically for the sanctuary. Once a month, a bus would arrive, and a group of seniors, led by a spirited woman named Martha, would deliver baskets of produce. Elias would meet them at the gate. He saw himself in them. People who still had love to give, who still wanted to be useful. One late summer afternoon, Elias sat on a bench near Tractor's enclosure. The air was warm now, thick with crickets and heat. Martha sat beside him, watching Tractor nap in the shade, a half-eaten cucumber resting near his paw like a teddy bear. "He looks peaceful," Martha said. "He is," Elias nodded. "He's a different cat." "You know," Martha said, adjusting her glasses, "people think that when you get old, or when you've been through a lot, you stop needing the silly things. They think you just need soup and a warm blanket. But that's not true." Elias looked at her. "Is that right?" "Oh, absolutely," she smiled, her eyes crinkling. "We need the crunch. We need the play. We need to wrestle a cucumber every now and then. Otherwise, you're just waiting, and waiting isn't living." Elias looked back at Tractor. The bobcat twitched in his sleep, perhaps dreaming of a vegetable the size of a watermelon. The logic of it all was ridiculous. It made no evolutionary sense. A carnivore finding joy in a garden vegetable was an anomaly, a glitch in the matrix of nature. But as Elias watched Tractor wake up, stretch, and lazily bat the cucumber toward the fence as if inviting Elias to play, he realized that logic was overrated. Love wasn't logical. Hope wasn't logical. And joy certainly didn't follow a flowchart. Tractor stood up and walked to the mesh. He didn't hiss. He didn't hide. He chuffed. A friendly greeting. Elias reached into his pocket. He always carried one now. He pulled out a small, fresh, pickling cucumber. "Ready, partner?" Elias asked. Tractor's tail gave a little twitch. Elias tossed it. Tractor caught it, not with the desperation of a starving animal, but with the easy confidence of a professional athlete. He took a bite, the crunch echoing in the quiet evening. It was a sound that said, "I am here. I am alive. And life is delicious." Elias smiled, a genuine bone-deep smile that erased 10 years from his weathered face. He took a bite of his own sandwich, sitting in companionable silence with a wildcat who loved vegetables. The world was full of hard things. There was pain and loss and winter mornings that chilled you to the bone. But as long as there were cucumbers and creatures willing to play with them, Elias knew everything was going to be all right. He leaned back, watching the fireflies begin to blink in the twilight, and whispered to the cat, "Same time tomorrow, T-Bone. Same time tomorrow." And Tractor, the bobcat who defied the laws of nature, simply purred, holding his green treasure close, ready for whatever the sanctuary and life would roll his way next.